2. Welcome to Sisters in Crime's Murder Monday, where authors talk all about their crime craft. I'm Jacq Ellem, bibliophile, copywriter, occasional broadcaster, podcaster, and member of Sisters in Crime Australia, where we've been celebrating women's crime writing since 1991. My guest for this month's Murder Monday is Queensland-born and Berlin-based author Patricia Wolf. Hey, Patricia.
Hi, Jacq. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm super excited to be here.
Patricia has an incredibly impressive track record on the writing front, nearly 20 years as a journalist with regular contributions to The Guardian, The Times, The New York Times, The Telegraph. Patricia has covered subjects from design, art and culture to travel, politics and human interest right around the world. And in 2021, Patricia won the $100,000 Nine Dots Prize and a book deal with Cambridge University Press. Outback is her first work of fiction, was shortlisted for this year's CWA John Creasy New Blood Dagger. She's a fan of whiskey, love that, strong coffee, busy cities, beaches and wild places. Patricia, could you give us an elevator pitch for your latest novel, Paradise, which has only just arrived on the shelves of our favourite bookstores?
I can. So Paradise, which, as you say, came out on Monday, so it's pretty new. I don't know if anyone wants to see it. There it is.
Oh gosh, doesn't that look good?
Yeah, I love the cover. So Paradise is the second in this D.S. Walker series. The books are standalone. You can read them separately, but D.S. Walker, Lucas Walker, is the kind of key character between Outback and this one. And Outback was out bush, and Paradise is set on surface paradise in Queensland. A little change of scene. And the story is that it's there's a home invasion. A young mother is killed. Her 10-year-old daughter, is left in a coma. And Lucas Walker is caught up in helping the investigation of solving this crime. At the same time, another crime happens that relates a little bit to his background work. So Lucas Walker is actually an AFP cop, not a Queensland police cop. And he has been undercover in drugs operations, in organised crime operations for a long time. So he's working on this. His heart is filled with this terrible, terrible crime of this young girl trying to, survive in hospital and her mum already dead. But he's also looking into a little bit more shady stuff around organised crime and his old enemies, the Vandals bikie leader, who's a guy called Stefan Markovic. And so there's the two crimes together. As he digs deeper into kind of what's happening, the dark underbelly of Surfers. Surfers has this glitzy, vibey, beachy energy, but there's a little bit of seed going on underneath, and the darker side of it comes to life. And then Gabby, well, perhaps I'm going to tell too much. Gabby comes out of her coma and it becomes a little bit more urgent because her life becomes under threat from the people or persons who hurt her mother. Oh, so wow. the two stories run along together. I haven't practiced my elevator pitch on this one as much as on Outback. So yeah, that's basically it. Okay. It's Australia's Gold Coast, sunny and coasty, but with this little seedy edge underneath.
Underbelly. And you know what? Here I am smiling, going, "Oh my God, this is a great story." Then realizing the nature of the topic and going, "Oh, no. You can't smile." I know.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it, sometimes?
I know. We've got our questions and they've been shuffled. Right. So here we go. First one. What's the hardest part about being a writer?
I think the hardest part is turning up every day. It's like you have to sit down, you have to not doubt yourself, you don't have to ask too much, you just have to sit down, you have to keep writing. And I think it's really, really easy to read back on what you did the day before and think, oh, this isn't very good, or I don't like this story, oh my God, it's not working. And you have to really, you're on your own, as a writer. You're the only person involved really in the process. There's a cheer team behind you, but really you have to get yourself there and sit down and not ask yourself too many questions and just keep writing. I think it's not hard because once you're in it, it's fantastic, especially when you lose yourself in the story. Yeah. But it does take a little bit of discipline not to say, oh, this is rubbish, I'm going to rewrite that first sentence another 300 times.
Okay, next question. Does your main character ever surprise you? I mean, he surprised me, but, does he surprise you?
Yes, he does. Lucas So in the first book I wrote, Outback, when I was on a road trip in Queensland, I hadn't been in Outback Queensland for a little while, and I borrowed my brother's car and I went out bush. And I felt like Lucas was sitting in the car beside me, telling me his story. That's literally how it came to me. I was just sitting there. But every now and then he does something, or he reacts in a way that I wasn't really expecting. A lot of that happens to me with other characters too, but with him especially. And then I'm just like, oh, well, hello, getting to know you a bit better. I've actually got a bit of a crush on Lucas.
I don't think
quite
you'd be
nice.
the only one, actually, somehow.
Oh, I can't believe it. Crush on my imaginary man.
How important is connecting on social media or through newsletters with your readers?
I think it's really important, and actually it's also really nice. I don't know if you know, but Outback and Paradise were first published online before they came out in print. It was
Really?
It was an ebook first kind of publication in the UK. And because they were published ebooks, I actually had a lot of interaction with readers. Somehow there's an easier way to connect with you when you're I don't know, an ebook or something. It's easier to send a message or get it anyway. And I love the feedback. I love when people ask me questions. I love when they love it, of course. And it means when I'm writing, I can imagine who's reading it as well. You know, it's not just writing this to this invisible audience. So I think it's really important. Not, I mean, for sales perhaps also, but I think more as a writer for the connection, the readership, and the kind of community that builds around people like, oh, I've got a crush on Lucas, so have I, you know, so that kind of thing's super nice. Yeah, I really like it. Our newsletters, I haven't done any newsletters, but I'm sure it's good too, because any kind of feedback, any relationship with readers, it makes it more, like I said, it's a lonely job being a writer, right? You're just sitting on your own. So having people around you in your head, it's super nice.
Fantastic. Oh, are you part of a writers group? And how important are they?
I think I'm not at the moment, actually. I live in Berlin. And I speak quite good German, but not enough to write in German. So I'm not part of a writers group in Berlin. I could perhaps be one, virtually with some people in Australia or the UK or something. So I'm not at the moment. But I think they're super, super important, especially when you're starting out, to overcome exactly what I was kind of saying earlier, this doubt that it's not working, or to let other people read it, to cheer you on, to say, you know, this could work, but maybe if you tried this, you know, to feel you're not totally alone. I find writers incredibly supportive generally, you know, that especially other women writers really cheering you on whatever you're doing. So I think if you're writing, or you want to write a book, or you're thinking of writing, and you can find a nice supportive group, it really helps move it forward. There's also a bit of accountability, right? You have, every week or every month, you're going to have to deliver something and say, oh, that's
accountability is very important.
Yeah.
Ooh. How do you dig yourself out of a plot hole? I suppose the question really should be, have you ever found yourself in a plot hole?
Yes, I have. I'm not I'm not a seats of your pants kind of writer. I do generally have an idea where the plot is going, but there are often times when you think, oh, but hang on a second, this can't happen now because it's too soon, or it's going to give something away, or, you know, whatever it might be. And then you own this little plot hole. Usually what I do is I kind of acknowledge, okay, I'm stuck, and then I close my laptop for the day and take a big long walk. Sometimes I talk to people and ask them advice on different types of
does that get you in trouble, considering the nature of the topics of the book?
Okay, I mean, if anyone ever reads my Google search, they're going to arrest me. You know, like, how long for a body to decompose? You know, can you be killed with a knife to the throat? Things like this. That was almost so. But I find it useful to talk through some of the things where I'm stuck, or some of the ideas I've got to sort of sound as a sounding board with people. So that's what I'll do. And I think you are going to reach points where, I think almost all writers reach points where they're a little bit stuck and a little bit caught, and it's not the end of the world. I don't see it as a block or anything. I just see it as something I have to think about. I think the writing process is, you know, 50% writing and 50% thinking. There are plenty of times when I'm not actually writing, when I'm really, really planning and considering and having conversations with Lucas and other characters in my head, so that when I sit down, I'm much clearer about where I'm going with what's coming next. So I think the thinking part of working through plot problems or what's happening next is equally as important as the actual words on the page in the morning. So.
I do like the fact that you just close the computer and go for a walk.
Yeah.
that really
Sometimes you have to. And it's not, I promise you, it's not procrastination. Because if you're sitting there and you're really not getting anywhere,
Yeah.
it's worse to keep sitting there than to say, okay, and go, this is what I find anyway.
What is your writing routine?
I write in the morning. I get up in the morning after coffee breakfast. I sit and write for about, well, until I get my word count. I try and do at least 2,000 words a day. It'll take a few hours. And then usually in the afternoon, I do the thinking thing. I sit down and think about what I'm going to do the next day, whether I sit down and do it or whether I walk and do it. But so my writing routine is to write in the morning and then plan or consider it in the afternoon and then start again. I don't write all day or anything like that. I write six days a week when I'm doing a book. So.
Wow. Well, that was kind of my next question. It's not necessarily one of these, but was are you writing fiction full time?
At the moment, well, full time. At the moment, I am. I'm back in Australia actually. I'm working on the third book in the series, which will be out next year. And I'm writing the first draft. And when I'm writing the first draft, if I can spend a couple of months full time on it and get the first draft out, then that works the best for me. And then, but financially, no, I'm not writing full time. I still have to get, pay the bills as well. So
yeah. How much research do you do before writing?
How much? How can I quantify this? So I'm a journalist, and essentially, there's always some research. There's some I do a lot of factual checking, and and I often get stuck on things where, like, how long would that body take to decompose? Call someone or Google it or whatever it might take. But I don't do a huge amount of research before I start writing. I think about the story I want to write, where I might want to set it, and then I go, well, actually, that's not true. I went and spent nearly a month in North Queensland before I started writing this one. So I do go on the ground because I want to hear it and smell it and taste it. So that I do. And then when I'm actually working on it, I'll be doing other research, calling experts or, calling on the internet. So that's how that works for me.
Ooh. What's your top writing tip?
I don't feel I'm quite qualified to give tips, but I guess my tip would be perhaps not, if you can't write every day, write really, really regularly, especially if you're working on a project, but even if you're not. It doesn't have to be long. Even if you just write for 20 minutes, if you write every single day, you make so much progress, and you get to know your characters so well and your ideas, and it becomes easier and easier. If you only come to it intermittently, I think it takes a lot longer. And I know it's hard when you're working and things, but really, honestly, you don't need hours. If you can get 20 minutes a day, every single day, that would be my top tip. And just turn up and write.
Well, how did you start? How did you start from what? How did you go from nonfiction to fiction?
I have written 2 or 3 novels that didn't go anywhere, practice ones, if you like, over 10 years maybe. While I was working as a journalist, I love to write, I love to read. I've always been a writer. And Outback came to me. I was actually taking a break between jobs, and I came to Australia to see family and did this trip. And as I said, that's when I wrote it. So I guess, it's something that's happened over a really long time. It hasn't just turned up overnight. How did I make the switch? It is quite difficult going from a really factual based type of reporting to a more fiction thing, but it's also fun. You're literally making it up, which is against every rule in journalism, but it feels really liberating. I can do this, can happen. I'm the boss,
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's how that happened for me.
How many drafts do you do before handing in?
Before handing in, because there's a lot of drafts that happen after handing in. That's
Yes.
the other thing I would say, but before handing in.
So when you're happy enough to hand it over.
To hand it in. Well, I do one draft where I don't really do any kind of editing while I'm doing it. I just write all the way through, not really thinking about it at all. Then I do another draft where I'm much more like, oh, hang on a second, that doesn't work, and fixing it. And then I do at least one more draft where I'm reading it and thinking about the words and not just the structure, but the writing. I reckon I would do a fourth one. There's probably at least 4. I mean, it's not so easy. I don't count them in that way, if you know what I mean.
No.
But it would be at least 4 until I'm really like, okay, someone else can read this. And then my agent would usually read it, and then my editor would read it, and then there'll be a huge editing process. So, the thing that you hand in and the thing that comes out, there's a lot of development, that is so beautiful. I didn't realize this when I wrote Outback. I sent it in, I thought, okay, I hope it's okay. And then it got so much better because other people read it and give you comments or give you ideas or say, and you're like, yeah, you're right. And then you write it gets so much better. So if you think when you're writing a book, I don't know if this is good enough, look, just send it in because it will get better before it gets published, Well, that's the thing. It was fantastic.
That's what I'd love to hear. It's like, so you really enjoy the editing process.
I do. I really do. It feels like cheating because other people help you to make it, better. I mean, obviously you have to write it, but I really do. Sometimes the first comments you get back from your editor, sometimes you're like, do they know how long I've worked on this? Slam the computer down, take a long walk, come back, read it again, go, yeah, they're right. I knew that really. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay. And then from there on in, it's really good. You have to let your little bit of ego out, and then it's really, really good.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Do you think that women write different crime stories to men?
Is it based on gender? Perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps at some level we write. I think maybe we're a bit more cautious on the violence, maybe. And I don't know. I don't want to say that. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I've read a lot of amazing fiction by men and women, and I've never really thought about the difference in terms of the story, in terms of who's written. I mean, some I like and some I don't from both. But so I don't know. I don't know. What would you say?
Well, I don't know. Again, would it be the style of writing, or would it be the story, or is
maybe
it just,
do
you just? I mean, there's some male authors that I adore and female authors that I adore, and for me, it's the story rather
maybe
than
that's right.
The crime,
than the style. And maybe it's also like the gaze, like in art too, that the female gaze, what we look at, how we frame it, who is the victim and who isn't, that kind of stuff. Maybe that's different. But I have to read a little bit, thinking about who's written this next time, a bit more from a male-female perspective.
That's the first time the questions come back at me. I don't know.
Like, sorry, I'm a journalist.
Professional.
Sorry. Is that against the rules?
No, I love it. Why is crime so appealing as a genre?
In general, I mean, for me as a journalist, I think it's so appealing because you can talk about contemporary issues and things that are happening right now that are of concern to people in day-to-day life, whether it's in Paradise, for example, we'd look at fentanyl addiction, which is really a massive problem in the States, could be a growing problem here. And I'm interested in that. I'm interested in how does it happen? Those, as a journalist, those are the questions I'm interested in. So I like that crime gives me the chance to talk about some real things.
Yeah.
And I think as a reader of crime, and I don't want to speak for others, but for myself, there's a satisfying closure. It's so much in life is uncertain and often doesn't feel like the good guys are really coming out on top. But with crime, you're pretty well guaranteed we're going to nail him. It's going to be all right. And there's a satisfaction in that, right? You can read it. It's a big. The crime is bad, but the result is good. So
I understand that completely. So we're almost out of time, but our final question: how would you get away with murder?
Wow. I did not know that was coming. how would I get? I would. I'm not the murderous type, but if I was going to do it, I think I would have to be something non-violent, something
Mm.
like poison or something. Well, that's quite violent, I guess. Oh, it's also violent. You have to plan hard. I think you'd have to try and be, I can't, I don't know. I think I'd have to be away from the scene, something slow burning where I don't have to face. I'm such a softie. I don't know why I write crime. I can barely step on an ant. So you've really
So
totally got me.
maybe
No,
not get away with murder. Doesn't necessarily mean you've got murderous thoughts, but as
no.
a
I think the secret is to really plan and really think about all the consequences and the way people are going to try to resolve it.
Yeah.
How are police going to try and resolve it? How can I make myself not? There's this amazing story, I think it was Roald Dahl, perhaps you know it, where she kills her husband with a frozen leg of lamb, beats him about the head with it, then sticks the lamb in the oven and roasts it. And when the police come, she's all crying. And then she says, I've just cooked it. Please, will you eat this? And they eat the leg of lamb, and they basically eat the roast leg of lamb.
Weapon.
They eat them. So maybe that would be my answer. I'll cook the murder weapon, serve it to the police, because I'm crying from the onions.
Wow.
And they'll never suspect me.
That's taking tenderizing to a whole different level.
Whole new world.
Thank you so much for joining us, Patricia. I know you have an army of new readers out there ready for Outback and Paradise. Third one, but not the third one just yet. Outback and Paradise for this Christmas. Murder Monday interviews are available on Sisters in Crime's YouTube channel at 6 p.m. once a month on a Monday. Patricia Wolf, author of Outback and Paradise, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was super fun. I'm going to think about the perfect murder all night now.